Perhaps the trade description should be contacted over this video's title, as there's little wandering to be undertaken along the short length of Broad Street. There was, however, copious wandering in the Glasgow Wandering video. Goodness, I've managed to fulfil the erasedculture wandering contract and mention Glasgow in the first 2 minutes. Of course, it's not difficult to talk about something you're hopelessly in love with. Broad Street is joined at the west end by the convergence of Crown Street and Red Lion Street, and turns into Star Lane at the east end. The west end of Broad Street once extended down to Red Lion Square and All Saints Place, but Infill bisected this short section, creating Crown Street and Red Lion Street. Starting at the bottom of Red Lion Street, attached to the wall of Murray Estate Agents, we are confronted by what the TV soap watchers have been fooled into thinking is for their safety: a CCTV camera. If you can't work out the real purpose of CCTV cameras, then you're beyond my help. And if you're a soap watcher, well, you're beneath my help. It's lonely in this ivory tower, you know. As we're looking up, continue skywards and notice how tall the chimney stacks are in this area. Listed as number 11 Red Lion Square, Murray Estate Agent stretches up Red Lion Street on its southern wall. In 1911, the business was J. Claypole & Son, a music shop specialising in organ building, one of 2 music shops in the vicinity, the other being C. E. Denning & Son at number 9 Broad Street. Photos of the period show Claypoles with signboards adorning the exterior walls, a practice that was commonplace for shops at that time. The signboards also show they were trading under the modified name of Claypole & Coley when this photo was taken. Claypole ceased trading in the 1950s. Number 1 Red Lion Street, the kebab shop, was at one point the home of St Michael's Motors showroom, with the workshop situated at number 7 Silver Lane. St Michael's took over number 1 from Ross Motors in 1957 and traded there until the lease expired in 1962. In 1960, St Michael's also opened their purpose-built premises at 36 Broad Street. A third St Michael's Motors premises operated out of number 3 Ironmonger Street, now the Yard Restaurant, from 1954 to 1970. Number 1's construction incorporates a hipped mansard roof. No, I didn't know what a mansard roof was either, so here's a definition. A mansard roof has 2 slopes on each of the 4 sides. The lower slope is so steep that it can look like a vertical wall with dormer windows. The upper slope has a low pitch and is not easily seen from the ground. A mansard roof has no gables. Oh dear. Only a few yards into the wander and we've encountered at number 3 the architectural aesthete's nemesis, stucco. Stucco is to architecture as Impressionism is to art, and is something to be avoided. We've also encountered our first former pub of this wander, the Nelson Inn. Talking of former pubs, Red Lion Street was named after the Red Lion Inn situated just around the corner at number 2 Red Lion Square. The Red Lion was demolished in the early 18th century, and North Shoes now occupy number 2. Pubs have never been scarce in Stamford. 1851 saw a population of 9,000, given 65 licensed victuallers to choose from. And for those like the Falkirk Juniors, whose thirst was harder to quench, 7 wine, spirit and porter merchants, 5 beer cellars without inns, and 4 breweries. Before the Nelson Inn closed in 1961, Mrs. Mickey Ray and Mr. Ronald Ray were landlady and landlord. Later the Rays managed the Crown and Woolpack at 51 Scottgate, now the flats of Blenheim Court. Frank Cook ran Red Lion videos from number 3 in the 1980s, and he has uploaded many videos of Stamford to YouTube. There's a link to his YouTube channel in this video's description. Resembling a church, the 3-storey number 5 Red Lion Street's early purpose was the clothing trade. It latterly served as a greengrocer's under various proprietors and titles, one of which, was P. Richardson in the 1970s. Number 5 sits on the corner of Wellington Lane, one of 3 lanes running to the High Street. Wellington Lane was named after the Wellington Tavern that it led to at number 7 High Street. The Wellington Tavern was opened in 1814 and closed in the 1830s. It's surprising Wellington Lane took its name from such a short-lived pub. Turning round to look down Red Lion Street towards Red Lion Square, we can see there has been little architectural change from this late 1800s photo to the following photo taken in December 2014. Retracing our footsteps, the opposing corners of Crown Street finds 2 hostelries both under the same ownership, the Crown Hotel and the Periwig. On the right, as you look east from All Saints Place, is the Periwig. Opened in the early 1970s as the Marsh Harrier, it had, as many Stamford pubs of the time, its regulars, and could be described as a local pub. So much so, non-regulars said they could be eyed with suspicion from the landlady and regulars alike when entering. This attitude tends to pervade small towns as a whole. They possess a certain insularity. The Periwig's layout loosely mirrors Murray estate agents in running some way up Crown Street, as Murray's runs up the parallel Red Lion Street. The Periwig actually reaches right across into Red Lion Street where Murray's ends, and this side entrance is used to permit late night drinkers. The lower section of the Periwig's All Saints Place facade has a pleasing Victorian look. The upper sector, however, is a terrible mock Tudor affair, and Tudor offends my eyes more than stucco. Sitting on the corner of Crown Street and All Saints Place is the Crown Hotel. The Crown belies its appearance, as one would think it much older than its construction date of 1908. The current incarnation was rebuilt loosely on the lines of the old Crown Hotel, which was demolished in 1908 also. The unmatched bays either side of the entrance imbue the Crown's facade with an engaging and pleasing air. Unfortunately, one could say the Crown is best experienced from an outward vantage point. There's little else worth covering in Crown Street, but there is a protruding window box, or jetty, on the side of the Crown Hotel. I find Jetty's most interesting architectural features. Where the Infill ends and Broad Street begins sits number 52, the model fish bar. The fish bar is currently stricken by stucco, but it wasn't always so, as this picture from the late 1800s illustrates when it operated as a tailor's. The most striking features of number 52 are the exceedingly tall chimney stacks. They are tall by necessity. The capacity of a chimney depends on the potential chimney draft, the pressure difference created by the inside and outside air temperature difference and chimney height, and the chimney area. The pressure difference in the chimney pulls air and fuel gas from the boiler or fireplace through the chimney and out of the building. One other architectural feature to note is the entrance door was originally on its left-hand side and moved to the central position at a later date. The position of the original door can just about be distinguished in this photograph. Number 1 Broad Street holds little aesthetic interest for me due to its mishmash of styles. What may be of interest is the Stamford Mercury was printed there from 1714 to 1732. Willoughby House is believed to have been the town residence of the Browne family, whose William Browne was a benefactor of Browne's Hospital, which we'll touch on later in this wander. William didn't live in this version of the house as he died in 1489, and the main part of Willoughby House is 17th century built, with the street facing facade refaced in 1870. William Browne also funded the spire of All Saints Church in All Saints Place, the bell tower of which the aerial photographs for this video were taken. Central's nightclub's Art Deco incongruity is perhaps the most surprising structure on Broad Street. Goodness knows how it received planning permission to nestle amongst its Georgian surroundings. But I'm a fan of Art Deco, so I'm pleased it did. Central Cinema opened on the 20th of August 1926 showing Flower of the Night. The building was destroyed by a fire 11 years later on the 4th of March 1937. It was reconstructed on Art Deco designs by famous London cinema architect George Coles, with seating for 600 in the stalls and another 192 in the circle. It reopened on the 28th of February 1938, showing Wings of the Morning. In later years, Central, like many old cinemas, hosted bingo and showed its final film in 1989. 1992 saw Central's purpose change from a cinema to shops and offices, and then to its current role, an awful nightclub for the TV soap watchers. Previous to being a cinema, in 1913, engineering company Blackstone and Company demolished two existing structures and erected their impressive showroom and warehouse. The Cambridge Cinema Company purchased the building from Blackstone's in 1925, and it was this structure that was destroyed in the 1937 fire. The building at a 90-degree angle to Blackstone's with the chairs outside was Parish's furniture shop. Parish's also had two shops in the High Street, one selling men's clothing and the other women's. Also on Central Nightclub Corner is Silver Lane, the second lane running to the High Street. Remaining on the south pavement, we reach the Corn Exchange Theatre. The Corn Exchange was designed by Stamford architect Edward Browne to replace the Gothic arched, glass-roofed open exchange designed by Henry Defoe Baker of Greetham in front of Browne's Hospital. Baker's arches were dismantled and sections utilised in the town, with one arch rebuilt to form the entrance to the United Reformed Church on Star Lane. Browning's exchange was realised when the previous occupant of the site, the Black Swan pub, was purchased and demolished in 1858, and the exchange opened on January the 28th, 1859. 1900 saw the first hosting of films, and by 1913 the exchange was known as the New Palace of Varieties. After extensive refitting in 1924, 1 year later, on the 25th of March 1925, there was an estimated £10,000 worth of fire damage. All these fires will have Furniture Went Mad's conspiracy antenna twitching overtime. In 1926, the newly formed Stamford Corn Exchange Company Limited commissioned local architect F.J. Lenton to reconstruct the Corn Exchange after the fire. The building was extended 10 feet at the rear, and a new stage was constructed. The new roof was constructed of steel and glass, with shutters to keep out light for the film shows. A new balcony was also erected, adding 200 seats to the auditorium. Unfortunately, the face of the building was not completely restored due to cost, and the leaded windows were filled in with mortar and disgusting pebble dash. The corn market ceased operating in the building in the late 1950s. In 2000, the lease was taken by charitable company, the Corn Exchange Theatre Company, with plans for redevelopment. Over the years, the theatre has been steadily refurbished, including the removal of the disgusting pebble dash block street-facing windows, and period ones fitted. There aren't many things more offensive than stucco, apart from Tudor Starlings of course, but pebble dash is one of them. The theatre now holds 400 seats and can accommodate 150 guests in its lounge. It hosts many music concerts throughout the year, with a predilection for tribute bands it seems. Opposite the Corn Exchange is Browne's Hospital. Built in 1475, Browne's was established by local wool merchant William Browne to house 10 disadvantaged men, looked after by 2 women under the supervision of a warden and confrator. I had to look up what a confrator was, and the dictionary definition is an associate of a monastery or monastic group who receives certain privileges without corresponding responsibilities. Browne's confrator, along with its warden, was stipulated to be secular. The residents, or bedesmen, were compelled to wear a uniform at all times and attend the on-site chapel for prayers twice daily, with Sundays requiring attendance at All Saints' Church. The common room was divided into cubicles and housed the bedesmen, but an extensive rebuild of the hospital in 1870 saw a rear courtyard of Gothic cottages for accommodation and a new warden's house. In 1963 the uniforms were abolished and the cottages modified to flats. 2 extra residences were added by reducing the size of the warden's house, resulting in Browne's now providing 13 homes. The warden's house ceased being so in 1987 when it was converted to offices. Up to and including 2014, summer weekends and bank holidays found the hospital open to visitors who could experience the common room, chapel, audit room and confrator's sitting room. But due to guide retirement, access is now restricted to group tours by arrangement. Adjacent to the warden's house, numbers 5 to 8 were built for Charles Lowe in 1846 to designs by Charles Richardson on the site of the Nags Head pub, from which the Nags Head passage running alongside the Pear Tree pub to North Street takes its name. Charles, under the name Lowe, Son and Cobbold, operated a wine merchants at this location. Charles Lowe announced his retirement from the wine and spirits business in April 1862, and running of the business was handed to his son John Lowe and Mr Henry Betts. Around 1892, numbers 6 and 7 were converted into a brewery, illustrated by this 1911 advert, which extended back to North Street. The building was split in 1935. The west side utilised as a wine and spirits merchant, the east half becoming the Lincolnshire Poacher pub. The Lincolnshire Poacher was trading in 2005, but by 2007, after extensive refurbishment, it had reopened as the Pear Tree. The other side of the Nags Head passage, number 9, currently Chatterton Solicitors, was the aforementioned C.E. Denning & Son music shop. From this 1911 advert, it appears pianos were their speciality. Prior to this, a bank was established in 1800, and by 1825 was trading as the Eton and Cayley's Stamford and Rutland Bank, which subsequently merged with the Bank of Stamford, Spalding and Boston Banking Company to become Barclays, located at 46 to 49 Broad Street. Continuing the run of ashlar-fronted buildings on the north side of Broad Street, we encounter the name Herbert Hart on number 10. The name probably being added during 1888 when number 10 was largely rebuilt. The Hart family name is well known in Stamford, with branches of the family lending their name at various times to accountants and solicitors in the town. Herbert ran a seed merchants at number 10, and in the 1970s Herbert's relative, Nicholas Hart, traded as an accountant from these premises. Herbert was also the mayor of Stamford in 1890. Having split from his business partner, John Lowe, of Lowe, Son and Cobbold, Henry Betts set up his own wine and spirit merchants only a few doors down at numbers 11 and 12. Number 12 was custom built in 1876, after the Horns and Blue Boar Inn was purchased and demolished. In 1929, number 12 became the Labour Exchange and is now offices. For a period in the 60s, number 11 traded as Thomas's, a bar with a tacit door policy. That policy being, admittance was only for refined clientele. Back on the south pavement resides number 36, the 1960 purpose-built premises of St Michael's Motors, which retailed and serviced motorcycles until 1987 when it was sold, and then traded under the title Motor Move until 2003. 2003 saw it continue as a motorcycle shop named A1 Honda, stretching to 2011 when it closed, and has stood empty since. However, plans have been submitted by Stamford Dental Practice for a purpose-built surgery, with their current location, number 14 Broad Street, the former Stag and Pheasant pub, to be converted to residential premises. Next door is the stucco-afflicted number 34. Another example of a mansard roof, this late 1800s structure became Stamford's first Chinese restaurant in 1975, when it traded under the name Hong Kong. One more former pub, the Roebuck in this case, operated at number 33, and locals often refer to the adjacent third and last lane to the High Street as Roebuck Lane rather than its official title of Goldsmiths Lane. Broad Street provided a home for the Stamford Mercury on a second occasion, when in 1971, after an almost 200 years residence, it relocated to number 33 from its large 61 to 62 High Street offices. The former Stamford Institute is next on our eastward wander. The site of the Stamford Technical College was the north end of Market Stall Shambles stretching south to the High Street. Like most shambles, the stalls sold meat and dairy products. Stamford's shambles also housed a fish market, and 1845 stone-built pillars and iron gates served as the Broad Street entrance to the fish market section. Designed by Stamford architect John Charles Traylan, this Oolitic limestone structure was built in 1895 as the Stamford Technical College, when the council demolished the run-down shambles and chose its Broad Street entrance for siting the college, and bears the word School of Art above its doorway. The High Street end of the shambles was used to house the library and police station. There were also classrooms behind the main building, accessed by its driveway. The Technical College provided night classes until it was replaced by the architectural monstrosity that is New College Stamford on Drift Row in 1967. In 1980, the Tech became the Stamford Museum, until council cuts in June 2011 closed it. The building has stood unused since. It is, however, available to rent as a commercial property at the rate of £30,000 per year. At one point, number 32 was inhabited by Mrs. Frances Tinkler. Tinkler was aptly named, as she was a piano teacher whose students included composer Michael Tibbett and Wharf Road Board conductor and composer Malcolm Sargent, who is buried in the town's Little Casterton Road cemetery. There is a school named after Sargent on Empingham Road, and opposite the school, over fields which you can see across the valley to the All Saints Church of Easton-on-the-Hill, and south westwards to the sculptural and brutal beauty of Ketton Cement Works, planning has been approved for 400 no doubt crimes to architecture in a development called Exeter Fields. At the time of writing, construction has been halted due to archaeological finds. The King of Glasgow is experiencing similar architectural misgivings about 110 Queen Street, a new structure on the corner of Ingram Street and Queen Street, Glasgow, opposite the Gallery of Modern Art. At this point there was supposed to be an audio contribution from the King of Glasgow, airing his thoughts on 110 Queen Street, but it appears he's trying to rival the Falkirk genius in the unreliability stakes, and all he's sent is this photo with the words, "Fucking hideous, isn't it?" He talks just like that. Honest. The previous structure at 110 Queen Street, the former Bank of Scotland building, was in the brutalist style and reminded me of the beautiful Camden Town Hall Annex on Euston Road in London, only more angular and less beautiful. There are some links to the 110 Queen Street project in this video's description. Back in Stamford, on the north side of Broad Street, the corner of Newgates, number 14, hosts an additional former pub, the Salutation Inn. 1799 saw it become the Salutation Inn, and during the mid-1800s it often served as not only a pub but auction venue for Richardson's auctioneers. Its last manifestation as a pub occurred in 1875, named the Stag and Pheasant, and it closed in 1971. Stamford Dental Care now operates at number 14. On the east corner of Newgates and Broad Street, number 15 is a typical Georgian structure for which Stamford is renowned. The entrance was originally central, but moved to its present location of the second bay during alterations, giving the structure a less bombastic air. Featuring an interesting stone jetty, it's fitting number 16 should have been the residence of father and son architects Bryan and Edward Browning. Their Stamford commissions include Barnhill House and the former Stamford Institute by Bryan, and the Town Bridge and Stamford High School for Girls by Edward. In 1881, architect John Charles Traylan purchased the building, and his son, Henry Francis Traylan, came to Stamford in 1884, making number 16 once again a father and son concern. Number 16 has also housed the Mormon Church and Workers' Education Association at different times. If the previous talk of pubs has made you thirsty and you feel you've earned a drink at this point, next door to number 16 is the Lord Burleigh. Don't take this as a recommendation of the Lord Burleigh though. One last run of ashlar-fronted beauty from number 18 to 21 brings us to the eastern corner of Broad Street, and a right turn on that corner points us towards Star Lane. Where Broad Street meets Star Lane and Hanover Court sits, number 22 Broad Street was once Gibson's iron foundry. Gibson's was the last remaining factory within the town walls when it closed in 1971. When Bowmans were constructing Hanover Court, a crane fell and damaged number 21. The impact can still be seen today if you know where to look. Passing Hanover Court onto Star Lane sits the 1819 red brick built United Reformed Church, whose construction bill was £1,800. In 1862, one of the dismantled arches from Henry Defoe Baker's Corn Exchange outside Browne's Hospital was rebuilt and used as the chapel's small courtyard entrance. We'll finish this wander with our final former pub, the Half Moon. The Half Moon was the vision of Henry Traylan, son of Stamford Technical College architect John Traylan, and was the first of his two corner-situated pubs in Stamford, the second being the London Inn. Constructed in 1938, shortly after Star Lane was widened for the convenience of motor vehicles, Traylan managed to blend his 20th century structure with surrounding buildings of much earlier eras. The constraints on space and surroundings ensured the Half Moon is less impressive than the much larger and Stamford's favoured haunt of the soulless TV soap watchers, the London Inn. Like Stamford Wandering, this video could not have been made without the help and patience of Pete Seamer and David Goodison. Thank you. And thanks as always to the ever difficult King of Glasgow and the ever wonderful Furniture Went Mad.